Are you always the hero of your story? Let's find out. We all want to be the hero of our own stories. But much like in real life, it's not always the case. But that doesn't make it any less important to tell those stories. If you haven't seen the previous episode about the big fish story, go back and watch that one. Stop this one and go back and watch that one. That way you can catch up. In that story, you're basically the victim. And it's okay to be the victim. There are several roles in your life that you play. And just like in real life, that also plays in stories. So there's the hero, there's the victim, then there's the bad guy or the guide. So depending on where you are in life, you're going to be telling a different story that helped to develop who you are and how you've made it this far, basically, right? So, for example, I grew up around trucks, tractor trailers. My father, my grandfather, my uncles, even my cousins drove trucks. So I always wanted to drive trucks. Well, when I got older, I drove trucks, and it was something that I loved doing. I was passionate about it. It was great. I got to travel. I got paid well. Then I met my wife, and we got married, and we started a family. Well, I had to decide whether I was going to keep driving or be with my family. I couldn't do both. I was gone for weeks at a time. Well, I chose my family. Several years later, I ended up working at a place where a lot of the new hires have to get their commercial driver's license. We ended up being a third-party tester for the state, a CDL tester. So it just so happens where now I was helping guys prepare for their CDL. So it was an opportunity for me to help others achieve their goals of getting their CDL. And at the same time, I still had an opportunity to be a part of that industry that I hadn't been around for a long time. So in that situation, or in that story, or that part of my life, I was a guide. I was a mentor, however you want to look at it. I was able to help someone start in one spot to achieve their goal. And how that happened was that I drove trucks years prior to that, and I still love to do it, but I gave up doing it because I love my family more. But it just came around to where I was able to help others years later. So in that situation, or in that story, I am the guide, not the hero, but I am the guide to others, to helping others achieve their goals. So in the previous episode, I was the victim in that situation with the big fish story. So I want you to keep that in mind as you're thinking about your life, your biography, your memoir, and where you want to start or what stories you want to tell. And remember that in some situations, you may be the hero, and others, you may be the victim, or you're the villain, or you're the guide. You may have someone that's now a preacher who maybe at one time was in the streets, and now they've turned to religion and want to help other young men and women get away from the streets. Maybe you were an alcoholic and now you're sober, and you've been sober for 10 years, and now you volunteer at AA meetings, and you help others to try to become sober or stay sober. So those are just some examples, but I wanted you to think about how just in real life, your stories also play a role. And it's no less important in telling your story, because it may have a major impact on how it affected you and why you became the way you are. And just remember that all great stories have a point of where you're a butterfly, but before you're a butterfly, you were a caterpillar. And in that transition, in that moment where you transition over, is where the real power is. The power in that story is in that transition. So just keep that in mind. And again, hopefully you learned something from this, and write it down, record it, document it. Because remember, you matter. My name is Bill. Thanks for watching.